So, namaste everyone. It's great feeling to welcome you all on the auspicious day of Vasant Panchami, which is also called as Sri Panchami. And it is divine coincidence to have the budget discussion on this day. I am CA Mangesh Kadam. As we are aware, today's topic is decoding the recently presented Union Budget 2025. Before Budget Day, PM has hinted that Goddess Lakshmi showers the poor middle class with blessings. Alongside, our Honorable President Draupadi Murmu has also said that the economic progress of the nation like India is defined by the aspirations of the middle class and fulfillment of those aspirations. This is all among the amidst challenges faced by Indian economy. For 3 years, the Indian economy bounced back from the COVID-19 pandemic with impressive 8% average growth. But last 2 quarters, it has declined less than 6%. Thus, India, most populous country, faces a deepening slowdown. Indian rupee has also dropped to a record low against US dollar from 83 rupees to 86 rupees. Trump administration has been keeping a close eye on India's trade policies and intend to start tariff war. Moot question crossed my mind that is it correct to measure nation's development by just economic activities? Our father of our nation, Mahatma Gandhi, has once said, and I quote, the true measure of any society can be found in how it treats its most vulnerable members. And no wonder 2025 budget brings major tax relief for India's middle class, impacting millions of taxpayers. Now, friends, onus is also on all of us to make our country the next superpower of the century. To achieve our milestone, what is needed more than reform is transformation. And when we talk about transformation, we always point out our fingers to others that who should get transformed. Government at dispensation should get transformed. Bureaucracy should get transformed. Local government should get transformed. But transformation should start at individual level also. Because I believe that one person doesn't make business, one person doesn't make community, one person doesn't make corporation, and one person doesn't make nation. It takes all of us to make our dynamic economy a nation second to none. We as citizens has immense responsibility. So on this positive note, let us start with today's presentation. We'll touch upon important aspects of the budget. For better understanding, we have divided the presentation in smaller sections. But before we proceed with budget analysis, let us chant prayer for divine blessings. Om Asato Ma Satgamaya. So, with this introduction and divine blessing, let us start today's session. But before we start with today's session, let me ask all of you one question. And that question is, which of the parameters do you consider the most important in current budget? Let us take a quick poll here and check what is opinion of our viewers. So whether this particular budget, what is the important parameter from your perspective? Whether it's a tax concession is the most important thing on your mind, food inflation on your mind, or stock market is on your mind, or subsidy on your mind. Yeah. Now I'll share the results. You can see the results on the screen. So you can find out from the poll results that 73% of our audience participants, they are saying what is most important on their mind is a tax concession and rebate. Then 15% says consumer food inflation is important. 8% says the stock market impact is important. And 5% says subsidies are important. Now, what is the context in which this poll has been taken? The very fact that a person is interested in the food inflation, you can gauge that person is either a housewife or a karta who is finding difficult to meet both the ends because amidst the consumer food inflation. For them, thali economics is more important. Thali economics, that means because of the pulses, vegetables, the prices are going roof the top. For them, that is important. Now, for middle class or a higher middle class citizens, for them, what is left in my hand? So whether there will be a new tax concession, tax rebates, that is definitely on their mind. Now, you are aware the current trend is most of our population is inclined to invest, or rather, they want to participate in the India growth story, and they are investing heavily in the in the equity market, majority through mutual fund. So, what will be the impact on the stock market? How will it perform because of the foreign direct investment outflow of last 3-4 months we have seen because of the rupee dwindling and dollar getting stronger? What will be the impact on the stock market? So all these questions are definitely important. Then there is a dollar rupee exchange rate. Who are interested? Exporters, importers. For them, it is much more important because moment my rupee gets weakened, my input cost, if I am dependent on the imports, will go higher. So every person has got his or her perspective towards the budget. Now, subsidies. You know that our agricultures, farmers, they are more dependent on the subsidies because of the erratic climate. Food inflation, one of the main reason, it is not the management. One of the reason is the management of the food prices, but another one is the erratic climate. Then manufacturing sector is heavily dependent on the PLI scheme. What are the subsidies they are offering? So point I want to make over here is that when you are expecting so much from the policymakers, it becomes very difficult. They are totally onto an unenviable spot. Why I'm saying so? While meeting the aspiration of all the Indians, they have to keep long-term view, Viksit Bharat 2047 also in mind. And if it is not kept, what will happen? Our journey towards Viksit Bharat may get derailed. So on this note, one more thing I want to point out over here is that every person has got a different perspective towards the budget or the budget data or economic indicators. One would say, okay, I think whole scenario is very sluggish. One may point out some opportunity into that. Here it is not someone is right or someone is wrong. It is all about respecting others' opinion, that they are entitled to look at the same set of data differently. So on this particular positive note, we will proceed with today's discussion. So as I have mentioned, that introduction, we have started with the positive introduction. Now, what are the key indicators of the India growth story? As everyone more or less they are aware what is the key indicators, but still, as a data point, when I have started referring to the economics of India, so philosophy of economics behind nation's economy, for last 4 or 5 years, what I feel that when you look at the larger picture, you find your own problems much smaller. I'm not saying those problems are not problems, but when you see the larger picture, you can always relate to that. So key indicators is budget versus actuals. Now, budget estimates of 24-25. You can see on the screen that budget estimates of 24-25. Then there is one more column, there is a revised estimates. You can see, everyone can see? Yes, yeah. Now, please bear with me. Sometimes, as technology is advancing, we are lagging behind bit. Okay, but still, we are coping up with that. Okay. So the tax revenue, if you see, the tax revenue for budgeted estimates for 25 lakh crore, 25.83 lakh crore, and it has gone to down to 25.56 lakh crore. No, that is mainly because there are some income tax cuts. Generally, revised estimates are more, but this time it is a bit less. And reason is the GST collection of December is grew by 7.3% year on year in December 2024. That is lower than November's 8.5%. But silver lining is, if you see the actuals up to December is 18.43 lakhs crore. That means out of the revised estimates, the percentage we have already successfully achieved is 71%. That means 29% definitely we can achieve the target of 25.56 lakhs crores. Now, non-tax revenue, again, there is a shortfall, 5.45 to 5.31 lakh crore. Positive sign in non-tax revenue, that is basically dividend, interest from PSUs, that is covered, RBI. So percentage, again, we have actually achieved is 82%. It's a positive sign. But why there is a shortfall? It is because of the shortfall in the expected dividend from PSUs and RBI. One more concern, third point, if you look at, that is other receipt disinvestment. Now, disinvestment over a period of 5 to 6 years, if you see, government is taking very moderate budget estimates for disinvestments. Because moment you say a word of disinvestment, generally criticism is that you are selling a nation. But it is not that. Despite that, government is trying to push the disinvestment targets. Budget estimate for 50,000 crores, then it is revised. Revised estimates was 33,000 crores. How much we have achieved? Hardly 9,000, which is 18%. Now it is far behind of the revised estimates also. And reason being, there is a strategic shift from government's time. What government is looking at, instead of aggressive sell-off to improving PSU's profitability. If I sell off my, for PSU, which is not doing well as of now, I will earn some money. But if I improve their profitability and delay their disinvestment, that will earn me more in times to come. So this is a bit of a concern for policymakers also and government at dispensation also. Now in this chart, if you see what is one more concern, I'll just move on, where there are a couple of slides we have to cover. That borrowings, the borrowings is from 16.13 lakh crore, it has gone down to 15 lakh crore. And actual estimates, serial number 6, actual utilization of borrowing is 57%. Now borrowing, one would say, and it is a fact, for developing economy like us, the growth can only come through borrowing. It is not possible because we are not having a surplus budget. We are having a deficit budget. But what is a ripple impact of that borrowing? If you see serial number 8, out of revenue expenditure is how much? 36.98 lakh crore. And out of that, interest payment is around 11.37 crores. So around one third, around 30 to 33% of our total revenue expenditure is going into the debt serving. Now, this is a cause of concern, but we are growing at the rate of 6 to 7% as of now. And if my economy is growing at that pace, and fingers crossed, if we are able to increase that growth rate to 8 to 9%, then this interest payment over a period of time will not be a matter of concern. But this everything needs to be seen from the how the intent is implemented on paper. Now, fiscal deficit. If you see the last one, what is fiscal deficit? total expenditure of the government, revenue plus capital, minus total receipt. Minus total receipt means excluding borrowing. So if you see total receipt minus total expenditure, it gives you the borrowing figure. Now, borrowing figure is 15.69 lakh crore, but up to December, we have only utilized borrowing on this 56%. That means government has decided at the start of the year that I will spend rupees 100, but they have spent only 56 or 60 rupees till December. Why this has happened? There are certain reasons, because there were elections in the first quarter of this particular year. So obviously, deployment of funds, deployment of infrastructure activities, that will obviously get delayed. Now, next one is again, this is a comparison of or the graphical presentation of the earlier tax revenue, non-tax revenue, and fiscal deficit. We have already discussed this. We'll move ahead. Yes, now we'll go to India's GDP growth. Now, there is a huge hue and cry in last couple of months. What is going on? What is going on? That we will cover in our challenges section. But here, if you see, despite the recent slowdown, India remains the world's fastest growing major economy. Now, our growth estimates still outpace the other economies, which highlights India's resilience and potential. Now, this GDP of 6.5%, otherwise we have anticipated more than this, that we'll see in the next slide. Government is hopeful, policymakers are hopeful that this time agriculture will outperform by 1%. And that will help to boost our target, to at least to achieve our target in the next year. This is a India growth story, key budget indicators. This is the most important thing. Why I'm saying so? That when in 2021, when pandemic has hit the world, our fiscal deficit 2021 was 9%. That time, FM, Honorable FM, Nirmala Sitharaman ji, has mentioned that we want to bring it down to 4.5%. Now, it was a resolve of the government. Now, there are certain good things we ought to admit that these are the things where there are concerted efforts are made to bring the fiscal deficit to percentage to GDP to a certain 4.5% level. Now, next fiscal target, they have taken 4.4%. Let us see how whether we can achieve. But looking at government's concerted efforts, controlling of the budgeted expenditure, revenue augmentation, we are hopeful that government will definitely achieve this. Let us see. That is to be seen. Now, tax collection. Again, the tax collection is one of the indicator. Path-breaking change. India has witnessed celebration and pain also of GST introduction. From 21-22, average monthly collection was 12.36 lakh crore. Today's average monthly collection 24-25, average monthly I'm saying up to December or January का figure रहेगा ये. It is 18 lakh crore. Average monthly collection. If you see personal collection also, gross direct tax collection, from 21-22, it is increasing every year. It is increasing every year. And what it reflects, the tax to GDP ratio, my tax to GDP ratio in 23-24 has rose to 6.64%, up from 5.97% in 21-22. This is because of better tax compliance, broadening of tax structure, and higher incomes. All this. But this time, friends, there is one more peculiar thing which we have observed, is that first time in the last couple of years, it is not the first time, but last couple of years, if a corporate tax, if you see, the other than corporate tax, that personal tax collection is going above, it is more than the corporate tax. Now, that may be the reason that whatever the bonanza we have received for tax exemption up to 12 lakh rupees no tax, this is with the intention that government intend that you also be more tax compliant, more honest, declare income, and we will also give you more tax concessions. So it will be a win-win situation. On this, we'll go to the next slide, where India's direct tax to GDP ratio. It's 6.64%, reflecting strong fiscal growth. Now, what is GDP? Total value of products and services produced during the country in a year. If my fiscal deficit, I am concerned about my fiscal deficit, but my direct tax to GDP ratio is also important. If my direct tax to GDP ratio is more or it is rising, then I should not be more worrisome about the fiscal deficit. So this brings us to the next part of the, as we friends, as we are aware now, what we have covered कि हम लोगों ने ये साल किया 24-25 में चालू किया, बराबर. जो ये अपने हम लोगों ने बजट एस्टिमेट देखा ना, जस्ट आई गो बैक फॉर अ व्हाइल. दिस बजट एस्टिमेट लास्ट बजट में किया था 25.83 लाख करोड़ का. अभी नाउ दे हैव रिवाइज्ड, दे हैव analyzed over a period of 9 months where we are moving. Accordingly, they are adjusted. And they have now actuals they have compared in the Indian Economic Survey. If you are interested, always before a budget day, Economic Survey is published. And that gives you, idea where the economic activities from the tax collection, from the social sector, from infrastructure, where it is moving, that you will come to know. So this is pertaining to past year, जो हो गया उसका कच्चा चिट्ठा था. अभी जो आने वाला है 25-26, उसमें गवर्नमेंट क्या बोल रही है, what budget estimates they are saying. So budget snapshot. We'll quickly run through this. The total expenditure is 50.65 lakh crore. Okay. I will just draw your attention again to the one fact over here is that interest payment. Interest payment, again, government is 13 lakh crore. Now, this particular interest payment out of my total revenue expenditure, somewhere around 1/3 to 27 to 30%. Again, this always will be on the minds of the policymakers. They are always keeping an eye on the debt and interest, but they have to balance both because growth will come by spending, and for spending you need money. And how do you need money? How would you generate money? Money generation cannot be out of the only tax collection always. Otherwise, one no-brainer formula that increase the taxes by 50%, 60%, 70%. In good old and not good olden days, from I would say somewhere in the 3, 4, 5 decades ago, the tax rate I heard it was 65 to 70%. Now today it is reverse. So only thing pertaining to expenditure, I want to make a point that interest payment needs to be looked into. And total receipts, again, total receipts here, 50.65 lakhs crores. Now it's a budget needs to be balanced. Whatever I earn, that only I can spend. Or if I earn less, then I have to borrow. Simple funda. Okay. Now, the total receipts comprise of revenue and capital receipts. Again, tax revenue and non-tax revenue. Again, capital receipts comprise of the borrowings. Borrowings again is 15.68 lakhs crore. So what we need to see over here as a citizen of India, suppose आप अपनी खुद की बैलेंस शीट बना रहे हो और खुद का बजट बना रहे हो. If you want to buy a house, then what would you do first? First, we will understand what is the cost of my residential property I'm looking at. What are my savings? How much loan I want to take? What is the installment I can repay? Similarly, as a government at dispensation, they also look at all these factors and try to find out a midway. आप आपका घर खरीदने का सपना छोड़ते तो नहीं हो जस्ट बिकॉज बोरोइंग लेना है इसलिए, लेकिन आप ये जरूर देखते हो वो बोरोइंग का रीपेमेंट में टाइम पे कर पाऊंगा या नहीं कर पाऊंगा. ओके, so this is a rupee comes from this. You can now there is a WhatsApp factory, so every other day moment finance minister announces the budget, you get the WhatsApp all this. But to make a point over here, our rupee majorly comes from income tax and the corporation tax and the GST. Again, borrowings consist of 24%. Rupees goes to, if you see, defense 8%, major subsidies 6%. And why I'm touching these subsidies now is that, later in our slides, our presentation, we will definitely discuss some more by time. We'll spend more time on the challenges. The challenges which India is facing on this particular VUCA world, under this VUCA world. This VUCA world, it consists of volatility, uncertainty, complexity, and ambiguity. All these factors are coming together. When 2021 pandemic, 2022 got over, we felt that, okay, now it's a smooth ride. But life is like that. It always gives you more surprises. My sir used to say, then man proposes and God disposes. Sometimes it's not man-made calamities. COVID, indirectly or directly, it was not man-made calamity. But geopolitical war, tariff war, these are all man-made calamity. We are not believing in the word Vasudhaiva Kutumbakam. We are all divided under one earth. So that is a problem of today's problems faced by each and every country. Okay, let us go ahead. Now, development measures they have introduced. With this, we will spend some time because you will come to know what they are doing for agriculture, why they are doing. If you read the economic survey, you understand CEE, Chief Economic Advisor, उन्होंने तो बोल दिया ना, what they have said, get out of the way. If I'm not mistaken, this is the word. Get out of the way. Deregulation karo. Who is saying? CEA is saying. They are saying deregulate करो. अगर आपको चाहिए कि आपका डोमेस्टिक मैन्युफैक्चरिंग हब बने तो उसके लिए कंडसिव एटमॉस्फेयर तैयार करो. So government is looking at 1% additional growth from agriculture. No doubt. This Prime Minister Dhan Dhanya Krishi Yojana to over 100 districts likely to help 1.7 crore farmers. We have discussed what Mahatma Gandhi ji has said. He has said that true measure of the society can be found in how it treats its most vulnerable members. Now, our farmers are really vulnerable. So, all these measures, short-term loans for 7.7 crore farmers, fishermen, dairy farmers, with enhanced loan of rupees 5 lakh. 5-year mission to facilitate improvements in productivity, sustainability in cotton farming. We find that it doesn't affect our life directly. क्या किसान योजना है, लेकिन थाली में तो उसकी बदौलत तो सब हमारे थाली में आता है. हमारे ऊपर ऐसे संस्कार हुए हैं कि जब आप खाना खाते बैठते हो खाना खाने के लिए, that time you thank every person who has made that food possible in your thali. So first one is farmer. So if we ignore as an urban population, क्योंकि हमें उसका उतना impact नहीं होता. So national mission on high yielding seeds. Makhana board in Bihar. Now, Makhana board in Bihar is a good endeavor, but there are certain elections going on in Bihar. So that is very obvious. Now, again, one thing they are saying this economy will have a boost from agriculture, and another thing MSME. Why they are doing this, we'll see when we'll see the part of challenges. Now, credit cards for micro enterprises, of which 5 lakhs for common, this is customized credit card. अभी क्या होता है, बहुत बार मैं किसी एमएसएमई जो बंदा है उसके पास उसने प्लान डाल दिया लेकिन रॉ मटेरियल लेने के लिए पैसे नहीं है, तो वो कहाँ से लाएगा? आप किसी रिलेटिव से पैसा मांगो, सो यू विल नॉट बी सक्सेसफुल एवरी टाइम. आप बैंक के पास जाओ तो दैट विल बी डिफिकल्ट. So that is the reason for quick money. In the first year, 10 lakhs cards are issued. Then for 5 lakh first-time entrepreneurs, including women, scheduled castes, to provide term loans of 2 crores during the next 5 years. So why I'm pointing out this, just I'm touching upon, you can go through because it is not a rocket science, it is everything. But I'm trying to draw a link. Focus on footwear and leather sectors. Why they are doing? One point we are facing a employment. We are saying that my population, youth population, is my asset. Human capital is my asset. Human capital without skill capital, whether it's an asset or liability, we'll discuss later on. But employment is a big issue. So they are looking at 22 lakhs persons employment generation through footwear and leather sector. Generate turnover of 4 lakh crore. Now, this is the intent. This is the intent of the government. Now, always, I should not say, but many a times we ridicule, kya hoga? Ye to intent hai. But at least they have set a goal. There are certain actions on the ground. Now, those actions will fructify only when the minds of all 140 crore people think in the same direction. Measures in the toy sector, support in the food processing sector, all these things has emanating from where? Now, आपने toy का देखा ना, toy नहीं, this labor incentive industry, they are saying exports over 1.1 lakh crore. अभी export होगा तो क्या होगा? I will get foreign currency. तो मेरा क्या होगा foreign currency? तो मेरा रुपी बेटर हो जाएगा. अगर एक्सपोर्ट होगा तो क्या, अगर यहाँ अच्छी इंडस्ट्रीज लगती है तो क्या होगा? Obviously, my FDIs, which are negative, will come back because they are businessmen. They are going out just because they are not finding value in your stock market. You are overvalued. Your corporate earnings are not good. वो किसी के सगे नहीं है, वो किसी के संबंधी नहीं है. अगर आप अच्छे कॉर्पोरेट अर्निंग्स दिखाओगे, अच्छी इकोनॉमिक ग्रोथ दिखाओगे, वो आपके पीछे भागे भागे आ जाएंगे 2 क्वार्टर. सो प्रमोटिंग एक्सपोर्ट के लिए वो क्या कर रहे हैं? एक्सपोर्ट प्रमोशन मिशन, सपोर्ट टू एमएसएमई टू टैकल नॉन टेरिफ मेजर्स इन ओवरसीज एंड मार्केट्स. Bharat Trade Net, a digital public infrastructure for international trade will be set up. National framework for GCC, warehousing facility for air cargo. Now, why they are doing this? Because if we'll see in our slides pertaining to challenges, that why they are doing this? Because there is a trade deficit, and trade deficit is mind-boggling, especially our friendly nation, neighboring nation. We'll see. So, we'll quickly go through the challenges because already we are 40 minutes past 11. GDP at slower rate. As we have discussed, everyone is aware, but for someone who has not gone through the data, in last 7 quarters, the GDP has slowed down to 5.4%. 5.4%. And what it has compared? It has compared RBI to reduce or to revise their estimate वो फाइनेंशियल 25 का हमारा एस्टिमेट क्या था एज पर एसबीआई. दिस इज नॉट माय फिगर्स, दीज आर ऑल फिगर्स फ्रॉम द गवर्नमेंट सोर्सेज एंड वी हैव मेंशन द सोर्स आल्सो. 7.2 से 6.6 किया, रिड्यूस किया. क्यों किया? क्योंकि ग्रोथ नहीं है, ग्रोथ कम हो रही है. क्यों हो रही है? कॉर्पोरेट अर्निंग्स नहीं है, प्राइवेट सेक्टर इन्वेस्टमेंट पे दे आर लैगिंग बिहाइंड. ग्लोबल टेंशन, ग्लोबल जो जियो पॉलिटिकल टेंशन है वो अलग बात है. So that is the reason everything is connected. In this from Corona, what we have learned that we are connected. Every dot is connected. If you plug one dot, you can sort out the another thing. Now from fiscal deficit. Now fiscal deficit. This is a one good part that yes, fiscal deficit. Next is GDP. We'll come to the GDP per capita. What is GDP per capita? Okay, we are all chest thumping that GDP is growing at 6%, 7%. But what is more important parameter is GDP per capita. What is GDP per capita? Quickly. GDP per capita adjusts for population size. That means my total population is 140 crore. My GDP is 140 crore. Then in that case, my GDP per capita is rupee 1. Simple. Now my population growth rate is more and my GDP growth rate is less. It will be negative for my GDP per capita, and it is reverse. It will be positive for my GDP per capita growth. So GDP per capita is very important. Now this, you can see this particular chart as far as GDP per capita is concerned. It's self-explanatory. US डॉलर, तो US डॉलर का डेटा था अवेलेबल. ये IMF का डेटा है. इंडिया का जीडीपी पर कैपिटा है $3,000. $3,000, that means it amounts to 2,40,000 yearly. And compared to emerging, I am not compared to advanced economies. Compared to emerging and developing Asia, it is 7,423. They are also 3 times better than us. And I am not comparing with Japan or China or Germany or United States. On the next chart, 1980s average India GDP per capita grows steadily, yet lags behind advanced economies. We have improved, but our best GDP per capita indicates the living standards of your nation or your citizens. Now, 2,40,000, if you consider, if higher middle income class or middle income class, if you carve out those sections, then the Oxfam report has said that 1% of the population is holding 40% of the wealth, and bottom 50% of the population is holding 3% of the India's wealth. So GDP 2,40,000, but if you carve out higher middle class and the vulnerable and only reflect on the vulnerable section, it will be much richer. Now we come to the capex. Now capex, government was harping on the capex for last 3-4 years continuously. Now capex has in 24-25 the utilization of capex poised to fall short of budget in 2025. This is as per Controller General of Accounts. And if you have seen, there is no mention of capex. No doubt, in details they have given how much they are going to spend. But finance minister has, there is, if I'm not mistaken, there is no any comment on the capex. No doubt, we are maintaining the capex expenditure, but I think I don't have numbers right now in front of me, but the capex in comparison to earlier years, it has gone down. Now, Forex reserves. I'll quickly touch upon this, why Forex reserves are important. Now, Forex reserves always show how rupee will behave in future or how the Forex reserve. If you see the weekly statistical supplement by RBI, from April, September, it was all-time high. And in December, it was 640. This $640 billion. Only thing, In January 25 also, reserves have declined by $5.69 billion, by 5.69 billion to 634 billion. Rupee volatility. This is connected. That is the reason we have called in the same graph. Rupee depreciation, as we have witnessed what havoc it is creating and where it is going to end, hopefully it will settle down in the next quarter or this quarter end. So today's from 83 rupees, it has touched to 85.6 and it has breached 86 for the first time. Now, this will resonate with all my investment advisor friends, where they always, earlier they used to say, "Arey, market has gone down because of the outflow." But this year in October, it is 96,000 net withdrawn by the FII. Again in November, it was not to that extent, but again in January, it was 75,000 crores. Market has not impacted thanks to the domestic investors, okay, local investors. But, but again, if this trend continues, what will be the impact and why this is happening? We are, it's an uncertainty because of geopolitical tension. Hamas-Israel conflict has resolved, they are saying, but we need to see. Corporate earnings were weak. There is a high US bond yields. And another one is the Trump administration has declared so many things that they will levy tariff on those nations which are not cooperating, especially BRICS. BRICS countries are contemplating to replace dollar as a official currency. So he has directly threatened, if you do that, I will put 100% tariff on all BRICS countries. That includes India. Think over it. So when we say uncertainty, this is the uncertainty. Now inflation. Inflation, again, in December, we have discussed about Hali economics. It doesn't bother us because we say, okay, we don't go to the market. We never know. किती बटाटे किती रुपयाचे झाले, कांदे किती रुपये झाले, some we never bother, we don't understand also. But who is living by a day, for him or for that family, inflation is a deep pain. So core inflation remains at 5%, but food inflation has risen to 10.87 in October, and it has now settled down. Now it is there are certain reasons, there are cyclical reasons they are saying. There are 4 or 5 commodities which are responsible or which are main contributor for this inflation. Hopefully, if your Rabi or Kharif Rabi crops will come, this will settle down. But inflation on an average across developed economies, if you see, we are, as the world is facing 4.3% and we are at slightly less than the world's inflation rate. Trade deficit. Sir, friends, this particular, trade deficit, generally we see the fiscal deficit. Why trade deficit is important? On the backdrop of, strengthening of the weakening of the rupee and on the backdrop of FOF withdrawal, on the backdrop of the exports, of the backdrop of the imports dependency of India. The trade deficit on the left-hand side chart, this is what? This is exports, this is goods. Now our exports are 322 billion from April to December. Now it is, and imports are 532. That means I am importing 532 रुपए का मैं परचेस कर रहा हूं और 322 रुपए का मैं एक्सपोर्ट कर रहा हूं. सो व्हाट विल हैपन? 211 रुपए का मैं मुझे डेफिसिट है, लेकिन एक रुपए नहीं है, यूएस डॉलर बिलियन में है. ओके, सो दिस विल have its impact on trade on the product side, but on the service side we are better off. Our exports are surging. That is because of the information technology, and other sectors where we are doing good. So there is a trade surplus on the services side, but by this get offsetted by the more goods imported. And now how it impacts? Suppose पकड़ के चलो मैं $10,000 का कुछ परचेस कर रहा था जब मेरा ₹70 का या ₹75 का डॉलर रेट था, अभी वो ₹85 हो गया. What will happen? A crore value of purchase जिसका $1,00,000 था, ₹10 से बढ़ गया, तो उसका कॉस्ट कितने बढ़ेगा? 10 लाख से बढ़ेगा. So it will directly have impact on your input cost. Now it will have impact on the input cost, and I am competing in the export market or the global market. It will increase my output cost. How do I become competitive in the global market? So everything is connected. Now this is the eye-opener slide. First we will see, if you see in China, is this red line or red bar is showing our import against China and 9 as our export. So 74 rupees, 74 US billion dollar, and is my import from China, and $9 billion is my export to China. Negative कितना हुआ? $65 billion. Now we always claim patriotism. I understand. I am also. Everyone is patriotic over here. But our dependency of China, how can we ignore this fact? Tomorrow, we are so much dependent on China, not us. Whole world economy is dependent on China. We'll see in the next slide. Now, US there is a silver lining. US को हमारा एक्सपोर्ट ज्यादा है, $53 बिलियन, वहां से इंपोर्ट कम है, तो वहां मुझे ट्रेड सरप्लस है. बट सर, कहानी में ट्विस्ट है. Now, Trump administration, from globalization, he has also gone into the protectionism for the US citizens or for his own country. His claim is that every other country is abusing the US trade tariffs. He has already levied tariff to Colombia. He has said that Indian tariff is also not unfavorable for US. Another day, I was stunned when there was a statement that he's going to abolish tax on US citizens. Instead, he will look out for these revenue sources by putting tariff on the imports or our exports to US. So what will happen? This will go down if it at all happens. So what is the way forward? We'll discuss. It is not only, but this is the fact. It is not, I'm putting the fact before you. Against UAE, again we are negative. Red means negative. Red बार ज्यादा है तो नेगेटिव. रशिया, वी आर नेगेटिव. रशिया से क्यों नेगेटिव है? क्योंकि वहां से हम लोग ऑयल इंपोर्ट कर रहे हैं. सऊदी से भी हम लोग नेगेटिव है. मतलब हमारा इंपोर्ट ज्यादा है और एक्सपोर्ट कम है. ओके. Now we'll go to R&D. This is all connected. Why I'm saying these challenges we have seen: GDP per capita, Capex, Forex, FII outflow, inflation, trade deficit. लेकिन ये किसकी वजह से हो रहा है? Why it is happening? Have we ever thought of? It is just has become overnight. No, friends, it is not overnight outcome. ये sustained efforts है. क्यों sustained है? If you see in this chart, India is spending 0.65% of the GDP on R&D. And what other countries are doing? Just see. Israel. Why Israel is Israel? That we can understand. Amount of R&D expenditure of their GDP. Sweden, United States, China, 2.4%. And that too, their GDP is much more higher than us. So what does it indicate? That India has to spend more on research and development. Other day we had a news of DeepSeek, and that has have very huge impact on the US market. All their technology stocks have gone down. Now, why China has able to develop this DeepSeek or what Chat GPT or AI-driven tools? Is a think over it. So allocation to research and development. The world average is around 1.8%, and today also our today's allocation is 0.65%. So if you see, this is stepping up of R&D investment. Why I'm saying so? If you see in this chart, blue line, India, concentrate on India's bar. Blue line is how much total out of total research and development expenditure. Government is spending 50% in India, and 41% is that hit or it is contributed by private enterprises. 41%. Now, if you see in China, 77%. Just see it. There is no magic. We say, hey, it's they are blessed or they are. Sometimes in this says, no, generally, somebody is doing good. He is very talented, born talented. है बहुत talent रहता है, लेकिन it is not only born talent. It is discipline that makes you, or this is a consistent effort that makes any nation great, any person great, or any visionary leader great. So China, see 77%, Japan 79%, South Korea 79%, Russia 57%. Name the country, USA 75%. And that is despite of we are having best of human capital in India. So what government is doing, that we'll see in in the details. This is one thing which this FRBM Act, it is replaced in 2017, yet to be approved. But as per 2017 Draft Debt Management Fiscal Responsibility Act, they are saying GDP debt ratio should be 60%. But as of now, our GDP debt is much higher than this. Central is 40 and state is 20. Okay. Now it will not be overnight miracle. It will be through concerted efforts of the policymakers. Now, geopolitical risk, it remains elevated for last couple of months. Reasons everyone knows. And this, it disrupts in Middle Eastern oil trade, increase energy prices, and potential rise in global commodity prices. All this contributes. What will happen? अगर मुझे ऑयल महंगा पड़ने वाला है तो ऑयल तो मैं इंपोर्ट ही कर रहा हूं ना. अगर मैं सोलार के चिप्स है या सेमीकंडक्टर वो मैं इंपोर्ट कर रहा हूं, मैं कहां से लाऊंगा? बाहर से लाऊंगा. आज मेरे यहाँ नहीं मैन्युफैक्चर हो रहा है. अगर टेंशन ऐसा ही रहा तो क्या होगा? So what I'm trying to convey, there are so many factors which are not in our control, but what definitely is in our control, that we'll see. Yes, this is for a data point. Just see. I know when my friend has told me, Mangesh, you are looking at trade deficit now. Look at the trade deficit of China with us. We have seen trade deficit with China, $65 billion kuch hai. Now, if you see, graphical concentration of refined products has increased in favor of China. This red आपको जो दिख रहा है ना, वो China है. They are saying 75% of the solar that is coming from China to the world. After World War II, China has become the largest producer and supplier. I have read somewhere, जिसके हाथ में फाइनेंस है ना वो डिक्टेट करता है, और जो फाइनेंस किसके हाथ में आज के डेट में. इफ यू सी दिस इज अ डेटा पॉइंट. ओके. नाउ माइनिंग में चाइना का आज के डेट में माइनिंग, मटेरियल प्रोसेसिंग, सेल कंपोनेंट्स, बैटरी सेल्स, ईवी. नाउ our whatever solar and EV, what we are intending to support our domestic manufacturing, for that input is coming from China. Think over it.